Hello and welcome to another episode of Beyond Loss, Loving Life with Karen Chaston. As you can see, I am Karen Chaston and today you have me. I am here all alone, no guest today, because I thought it was time for me to start to share, even though I've done it a little while ago, but it's a couple of months ago now, exactly how I help people to move beyond loss and create their better everyday life. And I know that it's the most unusual sort of, niche that I have chosen, but I am really, really grateful to be here and to be able to share everything. Hi, Kerry. Hi, Poonan. Great to see you here. So today I'm going to share a whole lot of stuff, but I'd love for you to put in the comments, be interactive, and share with me any insights that you are having. So let me share my screen. Let me come on no, not like that, like this. That's probably the best way for me to do it, because it's really great for us to actually know that our life is a constant, it's like an infinity journey from love to loss and then from loss to love. And whilst most of us know how to easily love life, love ourselves, maybe not so easy to love ourselves, but to love others, it's not so easy to do loss. We sort of get stuck in where we are and what is happening in the loss because we've never really been taught how to move beyond loss. Hi, Daniela. Nice to see you here. And it's really important for us to actually go, do you know what? I can learn how to move beyond loss. I can easily, be guided on how to do this. Okay, so I'm going to talk and I'm going to do your comments and all that sort of stuff. And Poonan, I am a Beyond Loss mentor. And it's good to see that you're actually moving through loss yourself. Everyone's moving through loss. As I will share with you in a sec, there's over 40 different loss events that can affect our lives. So that in itself is why it's really important that we actually understand how to move beyond loss. Now, whilst we are all intuitive and we are all guided and we're all protected, I am not a medium. Okay, I have not developed those skills in order to be able to share with you any insights apart from the insights on how to move beyond loss. So I used to be an accountant. I used to be a CFO of a publicly listed company. And I actually love numbers, right? And I totally love 1111, or seeing those numbers all of the time. And do you know what? We live in a world of information. You type that into the internet and they are going to give you the best advice, Poonam, on what those numbers mean to you. But do you know what? Tap inside. You already know what those numbers mean to you. And whilst there is a generic of what those numbers mean, they start to become our own special numbers, the numbers that we keep seeing. And if it is our past loved ones that are trying to connect with us or leave us a message, you will start to know exactly what it is. So my business is called Live Love by Design. And I am in the process of creating the Chaston Centre. And the reason why I'm creating the Chaston Centre is because I do so many different programs, so many different courses to help people to move beyond any kind of loss and create their better everyday life. And that's what Live Love by Design is all about. It's about you designing a life that you can live and love each and every day. So let's have a look. As I said, so this is my co-founder of Live Love by Design of the Chaston Centre. And that's Dan Chaston. Dan passed away over 9 years ago. July, it was 9 years since he passed away. But I have to say, I spend more time with Dan than I do with his two brothers. He is constantly guiding me. I give him credit, as he keeps telling me, I probably give him too much credit for everything that I do, for the books I've written, for the programs I've created, for everything that I do, I give Dan the credit. And it was really nice to see Daniela here, because obviously your name, or Danielle here, because obviously you're a Dan or a Danny, just like my beautiful boy is. So at the time when Dan passed, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. And I was, before he even passed, very, very unhealthy. I was working too much. I was eating too much. I was definitely drinking way too much just to get through the day. And I really didn't even know how diseased I was, which is, and straight after his funeral, I literally went straight back to work because I knew how to do that. But also I had grown up, but, as we all have in society, where we've been heard these clichés from the time we were born. Just keep busy, give it time, everything will be all right. Well, I'm here to tell you, you don't have to give it time. You don't have to keep busy. It's actually in the process of stopping that you actually can connect into everything that has happened, and you can find acceptance really, really quickly. Thank you, Danielle. And it's interesting that you say sorry for your loss, because my program is actually called The Gift of Loss. And the reason that I call it the gift, and everyone is like quite shocked, you've lost your son, how can you call it a gift? And it's the gift comes in who you become after the event. The event is probably never a gift, especially, no one ever wants to lose their child. We expect our parents to pass before us, but not our child. But the thing is that the more that we actually look at what comes into our life, we will realize that they are always a gift. It's like a loss comes to you to assist you to maybe get back on track, maybe to start doing the things that you came here to do. And I honestly believe that Dan and I sort of set this up before we even came into this world, into our bodies, into our personalities that we are. Because, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company. I was an accountant. There is no way that I would ever have even thought about assisting people to move beyond loss. We've all had different loss events in our lives. And I totally agree, Rachita, that, it does transform us, not only internally, externally, in the way that we look at things, in the way that we are. We're never, ever going to be the same person. And if you look at this pandemic that we're all experiencing at the moment, no matter where we are, and I can see that you are from all over the world, and thank you for showing up today, you start to realize that it's in the stopping. It's in us actually looking at our life, deep diving into who we are, deep diving into where we would like to be, not just in general, but in every single area of your lives. And in my Live, Love, by Design model, there's actually 12 areas of life for us to deep dive into, which is a lot, which is why I've brought it down into 4 pillars, all about you, all about your relationships, all about your expertise, and all about your wealth creation. So let's have a look at the 40 different loss events that I mentioned earlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go full screen on this so you can actually see it. Actually, what I might do is I might do it this way, because this is even better. Okay, so have a look at these sort of loss events, and you can start to see, what I actually mentioned earlier was quite right. If you look at them, you'll see that you've had multiple loss events throughout your lives. And some of you are writing in here, and Danielle, your father was so right that loss does expand our hearts. It helps us to actually tap more into our hearts. It helps us to get out of our mind into our heart. And Kerry, you know, you were with your dad and he did look peaceful. You know, I found Dan, and my husband and I found Dan at our back door, and he'd passed away several hours earlier. And even though it was a great shock because we thought a healthy 27-year-old had gone out the night before, he did look peaceful. He looked at peace. And I guess that's something for us all to realize, that it doesn't have to be this horrible, scary thing that many of us fear. You know, we don't want to go into loss and death and all those sort of things. And, you know, some people sort of say to me, oh, Karen, it's so morbid what you do. But it's not, because what it is it's about helping people to not fear death, to realize that there are multiple loss events in your life. As you saw, it's not just about death. But let's stay on death just for a little bit, because they're the things that you've brought up. You know, when you are in a good place, you know that whatever happens in your life, you'll be fine. And the people around you will be fine. And when it comes to death, and you sort of have this belief and this understanding that it's just a breath away, that then you go into another realm and you're greeted by your past loved ones and your guides and everyone else who has been with you your whole life, from the angelic realm. You start to actually go, well, maybe I'm just going on to my next adventure. Maybe it's just that simple, that today will be different than yesterday because I'm in a different realm, but I still continue on. Maybe not with this body and this personality, but maybe there is. But anyway, I want to talk to you about how you can move beyond loss. And as I mentioned, I was a CFO of a publicly listed company, and I'm really passionate about people at the moment who are really lost, you know, in this pandemic, in the way that we're all doing things differently, and the way that, you know, things have come about. Because if you have a look at the list, you can quite see a lot of losses that have really come forth. You know, loss of freedom, loss of status, loss, you know, loss in safety, loss of status. Did I say that? Yeah, I think I said that. Also changing work conditions, change in recreational activities, change in social activities. They're the things that we're all sort of being faced with this year. And we're not going to ever go back the way things were, okay? We are all bouncing forward. And the more that we look at the fact that we're bouncing forward, the easier life can be. But when we're in a situation, let's look at work, for example, and I really want to deep dive into the way that we can all sort of look at life. I might come back to this big one again so that you can see it more easily. Okay, so when people are depressed, let's have a look at it from an organisation's point of view and also from an individual's point of view. And I want to work up this cone for us to actually see what we're going through on a personal and on an organisational point of view. Because when we actually have our employees come up this scale to the higher scales, which we can't see at the moment, not only does the organisation sort of roll along and flow a lot better, but so do the people. And obviously, as a Beyond Lost expert, I'm really passionate about people. Though as a former CFO of a publicly listed company, I'm also really passionate about profits and the organisations thriving. Because the more our organisations thrive, obviously the more we will. And that's what it's about. Okay, so I'm just going to read Danielle's comment. As Native people, I do believe our loved ones are still with us in a different way, but honouring them keeps them alive some way. And I totally agree with you. Dan is a co-founder of my businesses because he is guiding and protecting me. But let's have a look at this, because a lot of people go into depression, okay? And they go into a loss of interest of everything. They're in sadness. And then when they slowly start to come out, they're obviously distressed. They're stressed, they're sleeping problems, they have illnesses. Then they can come up to where they're vulnerable, where they're indifferent about everything that happens in their life. They have self-neglect and fatigue. Then maybe when they come into the withdrawn, they have loss of energy, they're in avoidance, they're in isolation. Okay, so as you can see, they've come up the scale slightly, but they're still not thriving. They're still in survival mode. And then, of course, they can come into where they're disengaged, loss of attention, boredom, worry, or they can come into where they're just confused. They're agitated, they're mindless and everything. Now, I'm sure we've all maybe been at these stages sometimes throughout our lives, but we also know people who are like it in any of these 6 different stages. And it's about helping the people to move through. Now, if we look at it at an organisation's perspective, obviously they, if they're in a depressed state, the organisation may not even survive. They have high turnover because, and then they go into absenteeism, presenteeism, low morale, loss of productivity and unfocused operations. Now, this is where a lot of businesses are at this stage, and I'm really concerned about it, because what I do is I help not only the individuals but the businesses to be able to move into the next stage. So let's have a look at what the next stage is, because this is really important for people to actually understand that we can, once we have clarity, we can then very easily bring in our vitality, we can collaborate, and then we can sort of be more effective, and we have our purpose and passion. And that's what it's about. Okay, so Danielle, thank you for being so open and honest. You just said that you did slowly come out of a major depression in 2018, but you feel it resonates with me right now in struggling to survive. Okay, and that's the thing. We really don't have to struggle to survive. Once we know how we can move beyond any kind of loss, and we get the clarity and we get our vitality and our reason to jump out of bed each and every day, once we start to deep dive into you and into your life and help you to move beyond any kind of loss, that's when you sort of come back, and that's where you find your purpose, your reason for being here. And that's why I love what I do, because I can clearly, obviously, help people to be able to jump into life and to feel this. So let me just come back to this other screen where I can fully explore these ideas, because purpose and passion is what everything's about. Like, we're not here to survive. We're all here to thrive, okay? And that's what's really important for us to understand, is the way that we can thrive. And I know that when you're at the other stage where you're actually feeling depressed, no, that's not it. Let me come back here. Let me go back here. So when you're feeling depressed, the last thing you want someone to say to you is, let's find your passion and purpose, and we will help you to get there. Because there's no way you're going to jump up, say, 10 steps. It's just never going to happen. But you can slowly move from being depressed up to distressed. And then you can easily then move into vulnerability. And then you can move into being withdrawn, so that you can clearly take one step at a time. And that's what I've found, is that many times People expect us just to go from being depressed to living and loving your life. And it's never going to happen. It's a slow process that, when I say slow, it doesn't mean it takes a lot of time. It's just a process of you actually taking the steps one step at a time. And, and that's what I love about what I do is, I've just finished working with a lady. Her husband passed away 18 months ago. And we worked together for 2 months, 6 sessions, 6 90-minute sessions. And the reason it was 2 months, we could have done it in 5 weeks. But, and she did an extra one because normally on the 5 sessions, we work through one loss, and she wanted me to work through a couple more. And that's why we did 6. But the great thing about it was that, she said, when I first met you, you said you're going to be a completely different person after our 5 sessions. And she said, and whilst I didn't disbelieve you, I just couldn't see with clarity how that was possible in such a relatively short time. And then at the end, she said, but I just can't believe how such a simple process, it was a guided process. Obviously, we have step-by-step things that we do at each session. And there's work before each session for you to deep dive into. She just said, I can't believe how quickly I am living and loving my life, how quickly my life has changed, the steps I've taken, to move and to change my job and to change my, she actually has a business. So to change her business, to change where she's living, she's actually moving country because she was living in Scotland when I was working with her, and she's now moving to Switzerland. And she said, and I thought that was going to take me another year. So just through the process, everything fell into place because she did the deep dive into her. And I know that's not easy. And that's why so many of us suffer for so long, is because we're looking externally. We're blaming our circumstances. We're blaming whatever has happened. How dare that person die? There's no way I can live and love anyone else again. How dare that person leave me through my marriage? Or how dare I become redundant and lose my job? But it's when you start to do the deep dive, you start to actually find a really better way. We get clarity. And, as you saw, that's the first thing as we go into the positive part of the cone, of the Live, Love by Design cone on how you can move beyond loss, is that you gain clarity, which you can clearly see there, because the clarity helps you to become engaged in everything that you're doing. It gives you a direction, a reason. And then, of course, then you can go into your vitality, which will help you to, obviously, whatever this clarity is brought to you, the vitality will help you to execute it, to make sure that it happens. Is this all making sense to you? Let me just go. I've just looked at Jodie's comments. I'm trying so hard to get out of my shell, my bedroom. Lost so many loved ones and myself these past 2 years. And I totally get it, Jodie. And reach out, because, I'll come back to me. Let me come back to me, and I'll actually put up this banner, because I don't know if you can if you have time to stay for the whole hour. But maybe just go and download this book, which is my ebook, Life After Loss, because you'll be surprised on how this book gives you the clarity to help you to understand exactly why we grieve the way we do. Well, how our unconscious mind works, and what the emotions and the suffering and everything is all about. And I go into depth, sharing a few stories, but I also go into depth as to what happens to us mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, because it's important for us to understand that. We've never been taught how to move beyond loss. We've never been guided on what to do. So it's really important for us to start to understand that this is how we do it. And thank you, Danielle, for clarifying and also for being here in sharing, that it's about getting clarity. It's about coming to acceptance on what has happened and realizing that, moving forward, you can create this life. We do a lot of deep diving into you, but we also bring out a lot of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations that probably over your life you've either dimmed or forgotten about, or put them in the, as much as I'd love them, they're a dream, there's never going to happen. And we deep dive into them and figure out ways that they can happen for you of your life, because so often we sort of put ourselves last and we don't end up where we really want to be. And that's why I do what I do, because I know that if you can think it, you can have it. And if someone else has it, that doesn't mean you can't have it. We live in a world of infinite possibilities, and we can all have whatever we want. Whatever we want in life, we can achieve. But it is about having the clarity so that we actually know what we truly want and what is most ideal for us. Because once we know that, we can then take the action steps to go and get it. And they may take 5, 6, 10 years for us to get them, but it doesn't mean that we can't have them. And that's the most important thing that I really want to share with you today, is that it doesn't matter what has happened in your life. You can still become and create the life that not only have you come here to have, but you can also have whatever you desire. But it is about taking the action steps. So it's really important for us to, first of all, figure out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep going through and sharing some of these slides, because it's really important for us to understand what causes our pain. So let me just bring this back to the full screen. Okay, so this is what I call the unconscious mind loss loop. So what happens when whatever loss happens, and it doesn't matter which one of the 40 plus loss events, our unconscious mind goes into asking all of these questions. And it could be questions like, I wish I had, why didn't I, if only, we should have, why did they, why did I say? So we go into this unconscious mind loss loop. And that's what our emotions are all about. Because we obviously don't have a direct line to our unconscious mind. We don't have a mobile phone that we can just ring it up and say, what's this feeling about? Why am I feeling this? It'd be great if we did now, wouldn't it? If we could literally just call up our unconscious mind and actually say, okay, I'm feeling a bit of sorrow here. Can you please tell me what that sorrow is all about? What event in the past is it relating to? What event in the past is it that I require healing on, to forgive, to acknowledge, or even to apologize for? There's these things that happen in our life, and we do tend to forget about them, especially if we're the one that caused the pain or the pain was caused to us at that time. We sort of work through the emotions and we go through. But when we look at emotions from a different perspective, and that's what this mind loss loop is all about, they're actually our friends. They're actually throwing up this emotion so that we can deep dive into it. We can look at what it is, and then we can either apologize, we can forgive, or we can acknowledge, and then we can move on. And then the emotion comes in, gives us the message, we heal it, and then it goes out. Emotions, energy in motion. right? And that's the thing, is because they're painful, right? I'm not saying they're not painful, but they are messengers. And they're not messages of pain, they're actually messengers of love, because they're coming up in your body to assist you to move forward, okay? So that you don't have to carry this anymore. Because once you deal with it and heal with it, the emotion's gone. Sure, another one may come in, but that's another message. So when we start to look at our emotions as our friend, as our messengers, we stop doing all these unhealthy habits to get rid of them, going into denial, going into depression, going into all of these different traits. We're actually going, okay, what's this about? What am I meant to learn? What am I meant to heal? How can I move forward from learning from this emotion? And I know it's a completely different way to look at things, but believe me, when you do, you then start to not only know how to easily move beyond loss, but you also have a process that you do have that direct line to your unconscious mind. You have a direct mobile that is actually saying, look at this, Karen, or look at this, Danielle, or look at this, Jody, because this is really important. This is, you work through this, you're free. And the beautiful part about it is I don't have to keep giving you incidences in your life for you to learn what this is about. Now let's think about what I just said. I don't have to keep giving you the same incidences throughout your life. How many times have we had this person in our life continually show up and continually do the not so ideal things to us? Sure, they may be in one body one time and then in another body another time, but they're delivering the same message, and it may be they're doing things to us so that we find our voice, so that we actually learn to set our boundaries, to stand up for ourselves, to say, no, this is not how I would like to be treated. And it's important that we understand that once we can work through the emotions of what this person may be bringing up for us, those people and even the different ones in the different bodies will stop showing up. I did a blog post recently about moving on from a narcissist. And I did an interview with this lady who I've been working with. Her name's Kerry. And she's had 3 narcissistic relationships all in a row. And it was only through her eventually healing and stopping and going, what is this about? Why do I continually keep attracting these same people? They look different on the outside, but they end up doing exactly the same things. And why am I allowing them to treat me this way? For me to lose my self-confidence, my self-belief, my self-love, And then when she started to work on herself, guess what? She ended up attracting the most ideal partner that she could ever have, because she got the message. Is this making sense? Does this unconscious mind loss loop start to make sense to you? Because it's really important for us to understand that. And I can see, that I just love sharing this stuff. And I know it's heavy. And I know it's stuff that a lot of us really maybe don't want to watch, don't want to deep dive into, because I can tell you right now, it is a little painful. It's not that easy to deep dive into you. But when you do, that's where all the gold is. I can remember years ago hearing about when they were developing Earth, right? When God was creating it. He decided that he wanted to put all the treasures somewhere on Earth for us all to find, every single one of us, to find our own little, treasure trove sort of thing. And they were debating about where to put all the treasures. And they said, let's put them in the mountains. You know, it'll take them a while to climb the mountains and to find them. And God, the universe, whatever you want to call that, the creator, said, no, they'll really easily climb mountains. They'll really easily dig through them. They'll find them too easily. It's got to be, you know, an expedition. It can't be too easy for them to find them. And they said, you know, the harder it is, some people will find them and others won't. And they'll look at those people and they'll go, how come they have this life that I want? What's the difference between them and me? What, were they just born that way? Were they just born lucky, or what is it? And then they turned around and they said, I know, let's put them in the bottom of the sea. That'll be really hard for them to get there. And they said, no, they'll go there quite easily. And then Rumi piped up and he says, I know the perfect place to put them. And the creator said, please share. And he said, let's put them inside of each individual, because they'll very rarely go there. And it's so true, isn't it? We very rarely take the time to deep dive into ourselves. Is it because we're scared that we may end up finding the person that we don't really like? Or is it because we don't trust ourselves? We're too busy looking outside of us to actually do that deep dive into us. It's really interesting, isn't it? And what I have found is that you're always rewarded, and normally with the life that you've dreamt about, when you take the time to do the deep dive. And the deep dive, you ask yourself these amazing questions. Like, how often do you question yourself? How often do you say to yourself, what is this about? What is this emotion truly about? Why do I feel this way with that person and I don't with the other person? Like, why is it that this person triggers me? And if the other person did exactly the same thing, it wouldn't trigger me. What is this emotion all about? Where am I being guided? What is the best thing for me? Why can't I say no? Why can't I say yes to the things that scare me, that put me outside of my comfort zone? There is an endless amount of questions. And the funny thing is that every single question is waiting to be answered. And when you ask that question and receive the answer, then there is an action step waiting to be taken, because the answer will give you the guidance, the steps, so that you can take them. And as you take each step, you become closer and closer and closer to becoming the person that you've dreamt about, that you've wanted, that you've probably shoved so far down inside of you that you've forgotten that she's even there, or he is even there. It's really important for us to start to ask ourselves the questions. And a great way to start to ask yourself the questions is through working through all of your loss events, because they're the ones that are causing us the pain and suffering. It's not the good times. It's not our past good times that are dragging us back, that are keeping us small, that are stopping us from becoming who we really have come here to be. So it's in the questions that you can do it. And that's how I assist people to create their better everyday life. It's all about the questions. Even the word questions, quest, ions. Now, we all have ions inside of us. They're inside atoms that are just running around. We have positive and negative ions inside of us. So we're on a quest to find the ions, to find the answers that are inside of us, that are running around inside of our bodies. And that's what I just love about this. So I haven't got any questions or any comments at the moment for a while. I can see I still have a few people left here. Obviously, I may have been a bit deep and meaningful for some, but I'd love for you to ask me a question, anything about loss, anything about, why you may be feeling the way you are, how you can move forward, which way is how. And, I love to share that everything I, teach people, I guide people with, it really would have been ideal if we all learnt it at school. It would have been so much easier on all of us because we would have learnt how to ask ourselves the questions, how to deep dive into us. Would we have valued it straight away? Probably not. We probably would have had to have had a few loss events in our lives for us to actually say to ourselves, now, what was that formula that they taught us at school? How do we move beyond again? What is it? And then, of course, just like a maths formula that we use very rarely in our adult lives, but we do use them. But we go back and we sit down and we think, we stop, and we actually go, that's how we do it. Yes. And then you take those 5 steps that I share with everyone to move beyond wherever they are at any stage in their lives. Right. So I'm not getting any questions at the moment, but that's okay. So I thought I will obviously share with you again the really great way to assist yourself to move beyond any kind of loss is to download this ebook that I created, Life After Loss, and it relates to any kind of loss. And as I showed you earlier, there are over 40 different kinds of loss events that can affect our lives. And most of the time we don't even realize it's a loss. And that's our problem is, when you look at that list that I showed you earlier of the 40 plus loss events, you wouldn't even think it's a loss. One of them, a person said to me, problems with in-laws, how is that a loss? And I'm like, just think about it for a sec. If you don't like hanging out with your in-laws, either, your children's partners or your partner's parents, you won't do things. So there's a huge lost opportunity. There's a huge loss for everyone involved, not just you and the other person that you may not be getting on with, but every single person in the family is affected by the fact that you don't get on. I've been to many, many, many marriages, unfortunately, of young children, and I've been there, as the friend of the parents of the person getting married, either the bride or the groom, and they may be on their second marriage and they have problems with their first. So therefore, the person getting married is having a huge problem with having their parents who have separated 20, 30 years ago at their wedding because they know they don't get on. So how huge is that? What a horrendous opportunity, missed opportunity for the fact that they don't get on and they're causing all of this angst for a lot of people, not just, themselves, as in between them and their ex. So when you think about it, there's a huge lost opportunity there. If they had maybe either of them worked through my program when they divorced, they would be able to be in the same room. They may even be able to have a good laugh together. And I'm not saying they have to become best friends and hang out all the time, but how much easier is that for everyone involved, for the children, no matter what age they are? And let's face it, the older they are, I think the harder it becomes for everyone involved, because it's just like, oh my God, can't you just get on? You know, I'm about to have a child, I'm about to have your grandchild, and I've got to still sort of have separate gets-togethers. You know, it makes it so hard. It doesn't have to be that way. When you work through the unconscious mind loss loop, which is causing all of these emotions, you can easily create a better everyday life that is not only great for you, but great for every single relationship that is in your life. Okay, I've been talking now for 45 minutes, believe it or not. I'm going to have a sip. And no, that is not now. Isn't that funny? As soon as I said I'm about to have a sip, I went off the ball. Okay, where am I? Let me just add to stream. Okay, let me come here. No, it doesn't look like I want to show up. Well, that's really interesting, isn't it? Let me add. Let me remove you. There I am. Okay, that made it so much easier. How interesting is all of that? As soon as I said I'm going to have a sip, off I went. But it's good to see that it didn't really phase me that long. There may be a little bit of a gap with me not there in the recording, but that's